Marcus Delaney had been a waiter at Harrington's Fine Dining for 6 years, and in all that time not a single customer had ever complained about him. He was the kind of man who remembered regular customers' orders, who refilled water glasses before they were empty, and who always managed to smile even on the hardest days. And for Marcus, every day was hard. He was raising his 7-year-old son, Leo, alone. Leo had been mute since birth, communicating through a small whiteboard he carried everywhere, and Marcus brought him to work on weekends when the babysitter canceled, letting him sit quietly in the back corner booth with his crayons and his drawings, while his father hustled between tables. The restaurant manager, Mr. Fitch, had tolerated it for years with a cold silence that Marcus always mistook for permission. That Saturday afternoon, the restaurant was full, and Marcus was stretched thin across 5 tables when he noticed Leo tugging at his sleeve. The little boy held up his whiteboard. "Hungry, Dad." Marcus's heart dropped. He had forgotten Leo's lunchbox at home in the morning rush. He looked at the kitchen, looked at his tables, and made a quiet decision. He slipped into the kitchen and asked the cook to plate a small bowl of pasta, something from the leftover prep. Nothing that cost the restaurant anything meaningful. He set it in front of Leo with a quick kiss on the forehead and went back to work. He thought nothing of it. Mr. Fitch saw everything. By the end of the shift, Marcus was called to the back office and handed an envelope. "Theft of restaurant property," the termination letter said. He stood there holding it, thinking about rent due in 4 days, about Leo's school shoes that had a hole in the sole, about the hollow look his son would give him tonight when he tried to explain why Daddy seemed so sad. He walked out to the corner booth, folded the letter into his pocket, and helped Leo gather his crayons without saying a word. What Marcus did not know was that seated 2 tables away, nursing a glass of sparkling water and reviewing notes on her phone, was Diana Harrington, not a Harrington of the restaurant, but Diana Harrington, the 44-year-old founder and CEO of Harrington Technologies, one of the most powerful women in the country, a billionaire who had built her company from a studio, apartment, and a second-hand laptop. She had watched the entire thing unfold. She had watched the little boy write on his whiteboard, watched the father disappear and return with a small bowl of pasta, watched the love in that simple gesture, and she had also watched Mr. Fitch standing near the service door, his face tight, his eyes calculating. She had seen men like Fitch her entire life, small in authority, enormous in cruelty. When she saw Marcus walk out of that back office with grief written across his face and a folded letter in his hand, she closed her notebook, set down her glass, and stood up. She crossed the restaurant floor in 6 steady steps and stopped directly in front of Mr. Fitch, who was already moving toward the host stand with the satisfied expression of a man who believed he had just done something right. Diana looked at him the way she looked at failed quarterly reports, calmly, completely, without mercy. "I just watched you fire a man for feeding his hungry child," she said, loud enough that the nearest 4 tables went silent. Fitch blinked. "Ma'am, it was a violation of company policy and theft of restaurant." "He still has a job," Diana said, cutting him cleanly. "But you don't." Fitch laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. "I'm sorry, who exactly do you think you are?" Diana reached into her jacket pocket, produced a business card, and held it out between 2 fingers. He took it. She watched the color drain from his face as he read it. Diana turned away from him without another word and walked toward Marcus, who was standing near the door with Leo's hand in his, looking like a man trying very hard to hold himself together in front of his son. She crouched down to Leo's level first, and the boy looked at her with wide, careful eyes. "I heard you were hungry," she said gently. "I'm sorry that took so long." Leo looked at his father, then back at her, and slowly picked up his whiteboard. He wrote 1 word, "Okay." Diana stood and looked at Marcus. "You're not fired," she said. "And if you're willing, I'd like to offer you a position managing guest relations at my company's headquarters. We believe in people who lead with kindness." Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, and then did something he hadn't done in a very long time. He let himself cry, right there, with his son's hand in his and a stranger's kindness breaking. Something opened in his chest that had been locked tight for years. Leo reached up and patted his father's hand with the quiet certainty of a child who knew even without words, that something important had just changed. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner Stories, because the world needs more of this.